Hello and welcome back to another story. Today's story is a horror story where four teenagers decided to explore an abandoned asylum and got themselves in a bit of a trouble. But as always, I suggest to listen to the full story to find out what I mean by a little trouble. Don't forget to and subscribe to my channel. It really helps a lot. And as usual, stay safe. Peace.
In the quiet town of Ashwood, a forgotten road wound through the dense woods, leading to a decrepit building known as the Blackwood Asylum. The locals avoided the area, claiming it was haunted, a place where dark forces lingered. Despite these warnings, a group of four teenagers Ethan, Sarah, Lucas, and Mia decided to explore the asylum for a thrill. Ignoring the ominous signs that read danger, do not enter and turn back now, they ventured into the woods, laughing off the stories as mere superstition. As they approached the asylum, an eerie silence fell over the group. The building stood tall, its once white walls now stained with age and neglect. The windows were shattered, and the doors hung crookedly on their hinges. Ethan, the group's leader, pushed open the main door, which groaned in protest. Inside, the air was cold and stale, filled with the scent of mold and decay. The teenagers stepped into the main hall, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. The floor was littered with debris, and the walls were covered in cryptic symbols and faded messages. As they explored deeper into the building, an unsettling feeling crept over them, as if unseen eyes were watching their every move. They came across a large room with a sign above the door that read "The exit is near." Inside, they found an old, rusted map of the asylum, showing various exits and escape routes. However, something was off. The exits were marked with strange symbols, not typical for a map. Ignoring the growing sense of dread, they decided to split up to find the quickest way out. Ethan's fate. Ethan, eager to prove his bravery, took the staircase leading to the basement. As he descended, the air grew colder, and a thick fog seemed to rise from the ground. The walls were damp, and the floor was slick with moisture. He reached a door labeled "Storage Room" and pushed it open. The room was filled with old equipment and crumbling boxes. As he stepped inside, the door slammed shut behind him. Panic set in as he tried to open the door, but it wouldn't budge. The temperature dropped further, and he noticed the walls around him began to shift and move. Suddenly, the floor gave way beneath him, and he plummeted into a pit of jagged rocks below. He screamed in agony as the rocks impaled him, pinning him in place. His blood pooled around him, and his vision blurred. The last thing he saw was a shadowy figure looming above, whispering, "The exit was never meant for you." Sarah's torment. Meanwhile, Sarah explored the second floor, drawn by faint, whispering voices. She followed the sound to a room at the end of the hallway. The door creaked open, revealing a room filled with ancient medical instruments. The whispers grew louder, and the room seemed to darken. She turned to leave, but the door slammed shut, trapping her inside. The air grew heavy with a palpable malevolence. Suddenly, shadowy figures emerged from the walls, their forms twisted and grotesque. They grabbed Sarah, pinning her down on an old operating table. She struggled and screamed, but the figures were strong, their grip like iron. They began torturing her, using the instruments to inflict unbearable pain. Her screams echoed through the building, blending with the laughter of the demons. Her mind shattered as they whispered dark secrets into her ears, their voices filled with malice. In her last moments, she realized the whispers were the souls of those who had suffered in the asylum, forever trapped in torment. Lucas's endless search. Lucas, terrified by the sounds of his friend's screams, ran through the maze-like corridors, searching desperately for an exit. The map he had found earlier seemed to be leading him in circles. Every turn he took brought him back to the same hallway, the same doors. Panic set in as he realized he was lost in a labyrinth with no way out. The walls around him seemed to close in, and the air grew thicker, making it hard to breathe. He ran faster, his flashlight flickering as the battery died. In the darkness, he stumbled and fell, scraping his hands and knees. As he lay on the cold floor, exhausted and defeated, a door appeared at the end of the hallway, slightly ajar. With the last of his strength, he crawled towards it, hoping it was an exit. But as he reached the door, it slammed shut, and the hallway stretched on endlessly before him. He was trapped in a never-ending loop, forced to search for an exit that didn't exist. The last thing he heard was the mocking laughter of the spirits, echoing through the empty halls. Mia's terrifying tale. Mia, the last of the group, had stayed near the entrance, too scared to venture far. As she heard the screams of her friends, she tried to leave the asylum, but the front door was sealed shut. Desperate, she found a window and managed to break it open, cutting her arms on the shattered glass. She crawled out and ran into the woods, tears streaming down her face. Breathless and terrified, she stumbled upon an old campfire site where a group of campers sat. They listened to her story with wide eyes, disbelief mixing with horror. But as Mia recounted the events, her voice began to waver. Her skin grew pale, and her eyes glassy. She started coughing violently, blood trickling from her mouth. The campers watched in horror as Mia convulsed, her body contorting in unnatural ways. Her skin cracked and peeled, revealing a dark, shadowy figure beneath. In her final moments, Mia realized she had been marked by the evil within the asylum. The entity had latched onto her, using her as a vessel to escape its prison. As the last shreds of her humanity faded, she whispered, "The exit was never meant to be." Mia's body crumbled into ash, leaving behind only a chilling echo of laughter. The campers, frozen in fear, fled into the night, spreading the tale of the cursed asylum and the doomed teenagers who dared to enter. The story of the exit is near became a dark legend in Ashwood, a warning to those who would dare to challenge the unseen forces lurking in the shadows. The Blackwood Asylum stood silent and waiting, its doors forever closed, its walls echoing with the cries of the lost souls who never found the exit. And somewhere in the darkness, the malevolent entity smiled, knowing it would always have new victims to claim.